Good afternoon, distinguished visitors, retirees, fellow squadron members, and friends. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dana Novinsky, and I'll be officiating today's event. I would like to personally welcome and thank all of you in attendance for joining us today. This ceremony will honor Technical Sergeant Painschab's life and career of faithful service to our state and nation and the United States Air Force. Chaplain Beckwith, do you mind coming up for the invocation in a few words?
Good afternoon. As I begin today, I want to share with you a scripture verse that comes from the Psalms. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Tech Sergeant Ryan Painschab is gone. He was taken from us in a tragic manner. It should never have happened. Many of you, as I am, are saying, that's not fair. Not fair that Ryan is gone, not fair that he was taken from us so quickly and so suddenly, that he was here one moment and gone the next. And just like anything that's unfair, you might have a whole mess of emotions right now. Sad, angry, shocked, or even numb. The verse that I just read reminds me of how in times when it seems that nothing makes sense or seems fair, that for me and for many of you, there is a source of strength and solace outside of ourselves that offer comfort in times like this, times when things are not fair or don't make sense. Ryan should be here, laughing with us, cutting up with us, being Ryan. But he's not. And since he isn't, it's up to us to keep driving forward. One day at a time, sometimes even one moment at a time. Our mission right now, and my prayer for all of us, is to Charlie Mike. Continue mission. Were Ryan here right now, what would he have to say to each of us? Fight with a happy heart. Keep living. Keep living a life that Ryan would be proud of. Not only that, continuing our mission also means that we hold each other up. We're there for each other when there's times of difficulty. We meet each other's needs. And in one manner, for some, is a support of God and a refuge in our time of needs. For others, you find your way, and that's the way that works for you. I encourage you to lean into that. So as we struggle to make sense of Ryan's death, remember to each hold each other close and hold each other up. Would you pause for me a moment as I bless this occasion? Almighty God, be exactly what it is that our souls most need at this time. In our disillusionment, bring clarity. In our pain, bring healing. In our sadness, bring comfort. Strengthen our weakened spirits and allow us to Charlie Mike, one day at a time, as you give us strength to do so. And we will remember to fight with a happy heart. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. I'd like to thank our Adjutant General, Brigadier General Sean Mankey, and the other DVs for attending today. In attendance today is Ryan's family, his father, Sergeant First Class Retired Patrick Painschab, his mother, Elizabeth Painschab, his brother and current Army Guard member, Specialist Logan Painschab. Joining us via Facebook Live from Dyess Air Force Base, Texas, his sister, Senior Airman Lauren Painschab, his girlfriend, Lieutenant Mulvihill, and her parents, Doug and Shelley Mulvihill, and to all of his many friends and family and squadron mates in attendance today. Thank you all for being here. A little bit about Ryan. Ryan enlisted in the Air National Guard in 2011, immediately following his high school graduation. He started out in maintenance as a crew chief, where he excelled due to his skill and commitment. He then took those skills and transitioned over to the operations group, where he spent 2 years as a flight engineer. He deployed twice in support of Operations Enduring Freedom and Inherent Resolve. His mentorship of junior airmen and continual drive to do better have left a lasting impact on this unit and its people that will not be forgotten. We would like to start off today by recognizing that commitment with the presentation of Tech Sergeant Painschab's Meritorious Service Medal. Ryan's brother, Logan, will be accepting it on his behalf. Our Chief Flight Engineer, Senior Master Sergeant Lynch, and Specialist Logan Painschab, if you guys would join me up here for the presentation.
Attention to order. Civilian guests, please rise. To all who shall see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America, authorized by Executive Order 16 January 1969, has awarded the Meritorious Service Medal to Technical Sergeant Ryan E. Painschab for meritorious service 11 September 2011 to 26 September 2020. Technical Sergeant Ryan E. Painschab distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States while assigned to the 109th Airlift Squadron, 133rd Operations Group, 133rd Airlift Wing. During this period of service, the professional skill, multifaceted leadership, and tireless efforts of Sergeant Painschab contributed to mission success of every unit to which he was assigned. Sergeant Painschab distinguished himself by continually volunteering to lead and mentor junior airmen, ensuring they were not only meeting minimum requirements, but were well positioned for future growth and success. Ever the consummate professional, he was instrumental in assisting new airmen transitioning from civilian to military life, and then from technical training into the global airlift operating environment. Throughout his 2 years as a flight engineer, Sergeant Painschab accumulated 440 flight hours, including over 90 combat hours and 40-plus combat support hours. During one specific combat sortie, his aircraft flew into hostile airspace to airdrop critical supplies for coalition ground forces, which ensured vital coalition combat operations could continue. Sergeant Painschab's dedication to service before self and his staunch commitment to the membership of junior airmen ensured the 133rd Airlift Wing was always prepared to meet mission demands and execute its missions safely and effectively. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Sergeant Painschab and the dedication of his service to his country reflect great credit upon himself, the Air National Guard, and the United States Air Force. Signed, James D. Cleet, Colonel, Minnesota Air National Guard, Commander, 133rd Airlift Wing.
Thank you. Please be seated. I was a last-minute fill-in for a Pacific Angel trip that we were doing, and those are month-long trips that are humanitarian missions. They're a little to a moderate amount of work and a whole lot of fun. And that particular year, we were going to Cambodia and Thailand. And when I walked out that June morning, the flight line to meet my crew chief, Ryan Painschab, well, he looks a lot like Logan. So he had this crazy wild black hair that was pretty awesome, the most ridiculous aviator sunglasses I've ever seen in uniform, and a huge personality. And that was Ryan. And right away I thought, oh boy, there's gonna be trouble. But the only trouble Ryan gave me on that entire month-long trip was giving me Game of Thrones spoilers at the pool in Thailand, because he was watching it and I was waiting, and Ryan couldn't contain himself. And during that trip, we had 2 full crews, so at one point I was an extra crew member, and I strung my hammock up in the back of the plane on a long leg with Ryan, and the hammocks got to rocking pretty violently at one point, and I kept bumping into Ryan. And I looked over and everybody was bracing themselves, and Ryan looked over at me and saw that I couldn't brace myself because I was too short, so he stabilized my hammock for me. And I had more stories planned, but given that it was Pacific Angel and it was Thailand, I'm not going to tell them in this venue. So we'll leave it at that, but just know that that was the best trip that I ever went on, and it was because of the people I went with, and Ryan was a huge part of that. And I got to know Ryan pretty good during that time, and we used to joke around. My husband's also in the unit. We used to joke around about taking family photos, and he would call us mom and dad, and that's the kind of relationship Ryan had with people. And when that trip was over, the chief flight engineer at the time called me in and said, hey, we're looking to hire this guy to come over to ops. What do you think? And it's a no-brainer. He's enthusiastic, he's a hard worker, he gets along with everybody, and he'd be a great asset. So we did hire him. Before that, he deployed with maintenance in 2017, and then he came home, and he went to flight engineer school. And when he came home from flight engineer school, his entire shop conspired to create a demerit system just for Ryan and he racked up a ton of demerits. I would walk by the flight engineer classroom, and there would be 1, 2 new ones every day. We never knew what for, probably for nothing. But anyway, Ryan eventually caught on that we were messing with him, and he had a pretty good attitude about it. But that was Ryan in a nutshell. He just had a good attitude and a good relationship with everyone, and he was always smiling. And for a guy whose name I didn't know until June of 2016, I'll never forget him. Thank you for sharing him with us. Up next, Joel House, fellow flight engineer and a good friend. I turned it off.
So I met Ryan. We went to basic flight engineer school together. We had worked on the flight line a little bit together. I didn't know him real well. But so we check into the hotel, and Ryan and I start kind of getting to know each other a little bit. And he says, we'll meet outside, and I'll drive in the morning. Is that okay? And I'm a type of guy that it's 5:30 in the morning. I need a cup of coffee to get going. And so I get down. Ryan is outside. He is pacing back and forth. And for the next, I think, hour to get into to base, I don't think I got a word in, because it was, hey, I'm Ryan. Let me tell you about my family. Let me tell you about my life. Let me tell you about why I'm here and why I want to be a flight engineer. Throughout the phase of flight engineer school, he and I were able to go to a lot of schools together. I got to know him, got to live with him quite a bit. And I have to say, if we all could be the friend that he was to us, we'd have a lot of really good friends. And I have to say, he was one of the best friends I ever had. He was kind, he cared, he always made you laugh, he always made you feel important. And specifically, he talked about how proud he was to have you as a dad. Talked about how proud he was of you. Lauren talked about how proud he was of you. Talked about how proud he was of his whole family. How much he loved you. And early on, Victoria, he told me how much he loved you. And he did. And anyone who knew him, they knew that he gave a ton of love. So I guess in closing, like I said before, I'm committed, and I think we all should commit to be the friend that we had in Ryan to each other.
Thanks, Joel. Up next, Keegan Bodwins, another good friend and flight engineer.
Hi. Definitely not how you ever want to picture yourself talking about one of your friends here. But I met Ryan while in thinking about this. It was only about 6 or 7 years I really got to know the guy. But to know Ryan for a week was to know him for a year. I think that kind of goes without saying. He really grew on you. And if there was anyone here that he didn't know, I envy you. Because it was only a matter of time before he was before he was going to force his friendship upon you. Definitely, it happened to a lot of people. There was, we were thinking about trying how to make lighthearted stories about Ryan and knowing him. It was kind of a love-hate relationship with Ryan, because he had ways of poking at you and getting under your skin and saying things to you that maybe you particularly didn't like, but it was a lot of it in jest. I know a lot of it, sometimes he'd refer to Dana as Danica, and many other people here by different names. I'm sure we can all think of a couple. But I remember there was things about Ryan that I kind of never could figure out. There was always like his inability to tell north from south, east from west, no matter where he was at. And before we went to the desert, and he was talking about Logan being there, he was saying, "Oh man, do you think I'm going to be able to go see Logan?" And I said, "Yeah, I guarantee you're going to end up at the same field at the same time, because it's a custom stop, Ryan. It's the first place." "Well, can we drive there?" The drive there thing brings up a whole nother story about vape stuff that this whole last deployment, that it was cosmically stupid, but I can't say that I wasn't part of it either. So, but yeah, he was super excited to come and see you. I know you guys got a chance, if only for a minute, to see each other, and it's. I know he was talking about it for weeks, if not months, before then, and trying to figure out a plan to maybe break while he was there, or any way to get time to spend time with you. He was obscenely obsessed with talking about his family at all times. Pat, I know we just met recently, under these terrible circumstances, and I can't tell you how often we heard about you, and how proud he was about Logan and Lauren, and it was always funny to me that he wouldn't kind of commit to memory where Taji would be in relation to us, or anything else. That be even the Mulville's cabin. It's over in Wisconsin, so when he's going to be driving back to the west, hey, give me a call. We'll hook up when we go back by. Well, I forgot that. Yeah, you'd be driving right by. It's because he never really understood north, south, east, and west, and it drove me mad all the time. I was like, what are you doing with that free part of your brain that doesn't know where north, south, east, and west is? And it all kind of started coming to me about a week or two ago, and we were sitting there and we were reflecting on it and listening to people talk about him. And I remember Ryan would always say stuff that at the time seemed kind of childish to me or something. He'd say, oh, you don't know so-and-so? Oh, I love so-and-so. Oh, you don't know this person? Oh, I love so-and-so. And he would always say that to the point where I'd be like, how do you love all these people? Wait, love, and it was definitely that kind of person that he did. He loved a lot of people. And I think that the reason why he never really cared about north, south, east, and west, or where he was, is because as long as he was around someone that he loved and they loved them, I think that's all that really mattered to him. And I don't know, I'm just glad to be one of those people.
Thanks, Keegan. Let's see, up next we have Senior Master Sergeant Paul Jensen, a close friend and coworker.
I met Ryan fresh out of tech school to be a crew chief. I was just newly assigned as a WG-10 on the C-130, and he was the first person I was able to train to become a crew chief. I was really nervous when I met him. Here come this young kid full of energy and questions and asking, he's just going a million miles an hour, as everybody was saying. And tell you the truth, for as nervous as I was, his demeanor, his humor made it really easy to teach him. He was one of those kids that, I call him a kid because he's like the same age as my son, and that was kind of hard. But he's like a sponge. He soaked everything up. He talked about wanting to be a flight engineer someday. He loved the idea of having a flight suit. If everybody remembers, I was talking with Carly Townsend after the funeral about when his first trip to Yuma as a crew chief for TDY. I'm pretty sure it was his day off. He came out there in a flight suit that was way too small with his shades on. And we had this game going on. We bought this pink disco belt. And if you got caught doing something wrong by somebody, you had to wear that pink belt. Well, he tried his darndest, and he did something wrong and got that belt because he thought it was the best thing ever. And he wore it around all day. He didn't try to catch anybody. And then Carly sent me that picture of him standing there so proud with sunglasses on, his flight suit. Like I said, it was riding up his legs. It was too small with that pink disco belt. That's just the kind of guy he was. He always wanted to have fun. When he told me he wanted to be a flight engineer, I told him this is where to start. Learn everything you can about the aircraft. And he took that to heart, digging into the books, asking questions, not working with just me, but all the other crew chiefs out there to get as much knowledge as he could. It's just the kind of person he was, is he wanted to make sure he knew it right by the book. I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss his smile, miss his laughter. I'm going to miss his ability to walk up to a stranger that he doesn't even know and start talking to them, listening to them, and like it was said before, make Ryan proud and just be the kind of person he was. You see somebody, go up and talk to him, make him laugh. When Ryan was in a room, it was never a quiet room. There was always something going on. Sir, you raised one hell of a son and one hell of a man. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Up next, I'd like to invite up Tech Sergeant Samantha Moore. Do you want this one? Yeah, you
We have a flag from the maintenance group that was flown for the family, and I have something written I would like to read to you guys. To the Painschab family, to most of us who wear the uniform, the American flag holds a special place in our hearts. We protect the ideals for which it stands with our very lives. Ryan was a man who lived each day with that very heart on his sleeve. He was proud of everything our American flag stands for and demonstrated his loyalty to our country with his military service. Our 30th president, Calvin Coolidge, had once stated, "We identify the flag with almost everything we hold dear on earth: peace, security, liberty, our family, our friends, our home. But when we look at our flag and behold it emblazoned with all our rights, we must remember that it is equally a symbol of our duties. Every glory that we associate with it is the result of duty done." The same glory Ryan held with his duty in the military was a large piece of the reason Ryan held the flag so close to his heart. Conducting sorties with American flags on board military aircraft is an aviator's tradition. These military experienced flags are often gifted to family and friends, groups they used to be a part of, or present this flag to the family of Tech Sergeant Ryan Painschab. This flag was proudly flown over St. Mary's Catholic Cemetery in Waverly, Minnesota, aboard one of our own C-130H aircraft on October 6, 2020, for Tech Sergeant Ryan Painschab. This essential mission was to celebrate Ryan, his service to the military, and to his family. Tech Sergeant Ryan Painschab will always have a history at the 133rd as a brother in arms, and a special place forever in our heart as a friend. We ask you to proudly display this flag in honor of your son, our military, and the sacrifices your family have made in Ryan's service to our country.
We'll bring that over afterwards. Thank you, Samantha. Next, I would like to invite up Ryan's deployed crew. Major Adam Galloway, will you and your crew please come up? Major Adam Galloway was the aircraft commander. Major Charlie Moore was the navigator. Captain Nick Smith was the co-pilot. Abigail Schiller and Paige Karzak were the loadmasters. This was Adam's deployed crew. Adam?
Yeah, we're just going to say a few words, share a few stories about the time we had with Ryan. So if you guys want to start it out, I'll close it out. Nick?
Pick the co-pilot, make him go first. I was thinking about what I could say about Ryan that would really advocate for the kind of man he was, but I'm sitting back there and I'm listening to these stories, and I'm looking at all of you people, and I'm realizing you don't have to say anything about the guy because this speaks for the kind of man he was. And I didn't really get to know Ryan until my deployment. He was pretty new to the unit prior to that. But the first time I guess I can say I met him was before I really ever met him, because everybody was talking about him, telling good stories and things he had done. But when we deployed, I really got to talk to him, meet him, and his humor and his love for people and his kind heart was pretty genuine and one of a kind. And I think some of my favorite memories of Ryan are just kind of catching a glimpse of him in a room, whether it be in the DFAC when he's pulling donuts out of the donut bin strictly for the purpose of throwing it on my plate because he knows I'm on a ketogenic diet and can't eat sugar. Or if when he used to come to our room every morning. So when we deploy, they split up the officers and the enlisted aircrew, but we're in the same building, a couple doors down. But Charlie, me, and Adam would be getting ready in the morning, and all of a sudden you'd hear a boom, 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 boom on the door, and then a big voice would come across and say, "Enlisted entering." And there would be Ryan standing at attention. Another fun thing he used to do on our long missions is we'd always ask if we had passengers, we'd ask them if they want to come up front. So usually they'd pick the lowest ranking personnel in the group and let them come sit up front, and they'd get to watch us fly. And Ryan just had this ability to just get people to talk about some of the weirdest things I think you could ever get someone to talk about. And he'd keep them going. And then we'd get another person up there and he'd do it again. So we called it, what was it? Flight Deck Confessionals. And Painschab was the host. So I'd tell you them, but it's confidential. So, but no, you have an amazing young man. You raised a great kid, and I'm honored to have met him and served with him. And you have so much to be proud of. So I'll hand it off.
I knew Ryan first actually also in maintenance. I was an officer over there for a few years before I crossed over to the dark side and started flying the planes. And I was there actually when Ryan first came on board as a crew chief. And similar to Dana's initial reaction when she first saw him, my initial thought was, this is going to be trouble. It was quite the opposite. His work ethic was outstanding. And I saw him take that with him when he became a flight engineer and started flying the planes, and especially in the deployed environment. I couldn't have asked for a stronger personality and a person with more of a full heart to be sitting in that flight engineer seat with us. And the confidence that I gained being on that airplane, knowing that he was in that seat with us, was just astronomical. Occasion comes to mind where we broke on the road at a distant field out in the deployed environment, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to turn the airplane around and get it back. Fortunately for us, we had Ryan with us and the expertise that he brought with him from maintenance as a crew chief, and then of course we also had a gentleman that was formerly in the engine shop, our pilot. And we called home and asked our maintainers back at the deployed base if they were okay with us trying to fix this ourselves. I can't remember exactly what the engine issue was, but next thing you know, Adam and Ryan are out there on the stand turning the wrenches, and about half hour later, we're able to crank up and actually fly the plane back home. And when you got somebody like that on the plane with you, you know that you're going to have a good time, and you know you're going to get your job done. And that was the professional experience that I remember the most about him, was how good he was. And on a more personal level, Nick already talked about the story of him saying enlisted entering when he would walk up to our room. And just a caveat on that story, you got to have a little fun while you're deployed. So he started that on his own. We never made him, say, enlisted entering, but he did it. And we had to play off this a little bit, so we started forcing him to deliver a reporting statement. And he did, and he was proud of it. And I'm going to miss that a lot. I'm going to miss his personality. I'm going to miss his smile. I think that was already said, but I feel it's worth reiterating. He had one hell of a big, bright smile. And I'm going to miss it.
Well, I was a little bit, as the aircraft commander, I get my crew pairing. I look at who I'm going to be flying with in the desert. And I was pretty excited. I got a great crew, and I'm not just saying that because they're standing here. So, but I saw Ryan's name on there, and I was excited. But at the same time, I'm like, holy cow, how am I going to keep up with this guy? Because he is just a rolling ball of energy all the time. And I think a lot of the stories kind of speak to the fact that he was able to just draw people in and make them not only a friend, but feel like family, really. And I guess the best way he would do that for me was if I was on FaceTime with my family back home, he'd like to pop in and tell my son that he was actually his real son and that my actual son was the imposter. So it was so, I mean, the amount that he meant to all of us, just with his giant personality and energy, is I can't find the words to say it, but we're honored to be able to have spent the time we were able to with him, and just continue to mean so much to us. So, we'd like to present his family with his flight helmet that was signed by many of the members of our unit, and as well a flag that flew in our aircraft that we had up in the window when we did the flyover for the funeral. So, again, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Up next, our final presenter will be our Chief Flight Engineer, Senior Master Sergeant Steve Lynch.
I've known Ryan for a long time. Some of my favorite memories always go back to phone calls with Ryan. Before I had the opportunity to come out and work full-time at the Guard, I was a police officer, and I would field phone calls. At one point, it felt like once a month, from Ryan asking me how to get out of a speeding ticket. And those changed once I came out here full-time and Ryan started as a flight engineer, to me sitting at home on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. And I'd answer the phone. Hey, boss man, what you doing? I'm at home with my family. It's Tuesday night. Hey, so I'm going to show up at like 15 minutes before showtime tomorrow. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. Just be there ready to fly at showtime. Well, no, I thought maybe you'd want me to come in early. No, showtime's fine. That's just dedication that the guy had, and I'll miss those phone calls. To flight engineers, we got a little gift for the family. If I can get the rest of you guys to come on up here and join me. Arguably one of the most important days in an Air Force aviator's career is the day that they receive their wings. On June 19th, 1945, the United States Army Air Forces authorized the Flight Engineer Badge to those who qualified as flight engineers on military aircraft. The design consisted of a 4-bladed propeller with an 18-cylinder radial engine. The Air Force began to phase out the Flight Engineer Badge during the Korean War, and by 1962 had stopped issuing it and replaced it with the Enlisted Aircrew Badge that we currently wear. The flight engineer community is very small. The Air National Guards authorize 92,000 enlisted members, and only 376 of those are flight engineers. That adds up to 0.4%. The flight engineer is slowly being phased out as aircraft technology advances. So we try to hold on to some of our heritage, and our coveted flight engineer wings are one way that we are able to keep our history and set us apart from the enlisted aviator community. These flight engineers are iconic within the community and are very symbolic of our history and our heritage. And We hope that these are a way for you to remember Ryan and the service that he's given to his community, the state, and the nation. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That concludes the formal portion of today. Thank you all for being here and helping us celebrate and remember Ryan, somebody that we'll never forget.